Good morning from the Sussex Downs here in the UK. The sun is about to come up, and the sun has probably gone down on all of us over the last month. This is Monty Mumford on Twitter. That's with an N, not like that rubbish band Mumford and Sons, Monty Mumford. And Blockspeak, BS, not bullshit, but Blockspeak. We're on all the social platforms, on Spotify, easy to find. Self-promotion over. Now, one of the best guests we've had on so far, the awesome Mati Greenspan, who I keep referring to when I write as Matty Holland. But Matty Holland was a footballer, soccer player who used to play for West Ham. So if I make that mistake again, slap me around the face, Matt. Do you know what I mean? Green behind me, Greenspan. How are you, mate? It's great to see you in Malta. You're in Tel Aviv, I think.
That's correct. Yeah, I actually like Mumford and Sons. Sorry about that, but I listen to them every once in a while.
My mate rang me up about 2 years ago on a Saturday, and he said, "Whatever you do, don't answer your phone. Just go to voicemail." And my voicemail says something like Monty Mumford, not as in that so-and-so band called Mumford and Sons.
There you go.
So the phone rings, blah blah blah. And then I let it ring. 5 minutes later, my mate rings back. I said, "What's up with you?" He said, "Oh, that was the bass player of Mumford and Sons. I told him about your message at his wedding, and apparently he took it in very good heart." So they're
of course.
So they're good people. You know what I mean?
You got to.
Tel Aviv. We're hearing stories around the world about lockdown. Seems like the Israelis are doing it in a pretty kind of Israeli type of way, right? Lots of data.
Oh yeah, data collection. What was one of the first things that was pushed through Parliament was an act to enable tracking people through their cell phones. Sure, they've been trying to do that for a while, but now that they finally have the political willpower, even though we still don't have an official government.
Well, no, yeah, was it Benny and Nettie?
Yeah, Bibi and Benny are going at it again.
Yes, man. Coalition governments, man, they never were. I lived in Israel twice in the early 80s. 83 to 84, 85 to 86 on kibbutzim and various strange farms. And even then the political situation was crazy. Just like Italy. It's just the same thing with that. With the extreme parties and the ultra-Orthodox seemingly still holding sway.
They are. Yeah.
Amazing that Israel is so ahead in technology terms. So what do? Everybody has to download the app, or you're alerted, or how does it work?
I haven't downloaded anything yet. I actually have no idea. I don't think it's been implemented yet. I think it's just they've laid the groundwork for doing it later. At the moment, the entire country's on lockdown. If you go out on the highway, the cops will stop you and start asking questions. Where you're going, they might give you a ticket even.
And that happens. You will be pulled over. It's like that rare to see a car.
It's very likely you'll be pulled over at this point.
Wow.
Yeah. If you're going on the highway, the inner city streets, I'm going to stop you because people can easily say, "Oh, I'm going to the supermarket," or "I'm going to help an elder," whatever.
I'm a national. We had a thing here in the UK where they asked for volunteers, so I signed up. They wanted 250,000. 750,000 people signed up. So it's an existing app for extra work, so it's called Good Samaritan, biblical reference. So I've been on call for 192 hours and I still haven't had an alert yet to kind of help deliver food. But I mean, it's funny. I live in the Sussex Downs, and I just drove up to a beauty spot to take a phone call after I'd been to the chemist on the way to the supermarket. And it was very benign, a car was next to me within about 5 minutes. We had a good chat about the volunteering, and all that. Perfectly fine, no ticket, you know what I mean? But
right.
But people are breaking the rules, I think. But I think from the UK's point of view, I think the authorities thought we would break the rules more.
I saw a video on Reddit yesterday from the UK where they kicked in a guy's door. Apparently he told them through the keyhole that he was self-isolating. They didn't believe him, so they kicked his door down. He was so upset.
Why?
why was he upset or why the kick is, they thought he was having a party or something. One of the neighbors called and said he was having a party. He wasn't. I don't know. In America, that's a violation of rights. I don't know about the UK.
It used to be a homish of Castleford. One notorious incident just before Easter, I think it was Easter Friday. Some kids were playing in their own garden.
Yeah.
Overzealous police told them to go inside. I mean, that was, I tell you what, if anyone tells me not to stay,
it's unbelievable how fast we're giving up our own freedoms and rights.
Oh, man, we had a conversation yesterday with Mark Yusko, really intelligent guy, very, very non-Trumpian.
Yeah.
And we spoke about a lot of things, but we've been given we've been given the choice between health or privacy, and we've said,
right.
Fuck privacy. I want my health, and we came to the conclusion that this, never not take advantage of a crisis if you're an authoritarian government, which we have many around the world. But we had
just about all of them.
Yeah. Well, we had politics yesterday, and I think politics is enough. I want to kind of focus on you.
Good.
We met in Malta. I think your trousers were more florid than mine. You wearing the same trousers today, or are you in sweatpants?
Sweatpants and flip-flops.
Good man. I've got a pair of big city shoes and the oldest pair of jeans in the world.
Nice.
Pictures behind you. What's that? Is that all of your family?
That's my family. Not all of them. We actually have a new addition since this was taken. We were supposed to take photos of him, but quarantine.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. He's a year now. We just celebrated his first birthday in isolation.
Yeah.
So my wife, 2 daughters, and a son.
Right.
That's us in a nutshell. Everybody's sleeping at the moment, so it was good of you to be able to reschedule this.
Oh, absolutely.
But by the afternoon, it'll be a zoo over here.
So, like me, we're men of the road, right? Speak at conferences all the time. How are you coping without sharing your words of wisdom around the world? You finding that difficult?
Not at all. I mean, nobody's taken away Twitter yet, so we're good. I'm still publishing a newsletter every single day, and we're doing these. All the conferences seem to have gone to virtual now, which are, believe it or not, a lot easier to attend. So if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, we want you to attend a virtual conference," I don't really even need to look at the dates. I say, just sure, why not?
I've found that the fee has gone down for doing such things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it is. But it's a new world and new normal. Now, I know you. I don't think everybody in the world knows you, but could you kind of give us a story about you? How did you get here? And one of those lovely stories.
Yeah, I mostly focus on the markets and what's happening in them, and I have been pretty much my entire life. I've been working at various online brokers since 2008, and got my license to trade in the European Union in 2017. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what I do. I watch the markets and tell people, hey, this is what's happening. This is why it's happening. And watch the news and see how that translates into trading and investment opportunities. It's pretty much not much to it.
And that's your own game. Did you not used to work for eToro? Was that not your previous?
Yeah. So the last time that we spoke in Malta, that was the last time that I had officially represented eToro in an official capacity. After that, I left eToro very sadly, because I've been there for 7.5 years. Some great people over there. And I started my own firm, which is called Quantum Economics, and we do analysis, advisory, and money management. Basically, focusing on the markets and explaining to people what is a central bank and how what they're doing right now affects pricing. Big focus, of course, on crypto assets and cryptocurrencies, because of course, plugged into the crypto community quite well on social media. So that's basically what we do.
Yeah, I'm sorry to ask this, but obviously it begs the question: what happened to eToro? You sound saddened by it. Did it all go wrong, or were you under an NDA, or what happened?
No. Everything was great. I mean, quite honestly, I just felt like I'd reached the maximum amount of growth that I could. 7.5 years, it's a good run.
Sure.
It wasn't as if I was had the opportunity to join the senior management there, or those positions are filled.
Yeah.
And over the years, there've been a lot of ideas and people pitching things to me, which I wish I could have accepted at the time. And now I'm able to build stuff from scratch, and that's really what I like doing.
Liberated after 7.5 years. I remember eToro my early days, which would have been 98, 99, when I was an editor on Computing magazine in this country, which was
Right.
a weekly that had 280 pages of newsprint.
Wow.
And eToro was one of the earliest, as I remember, of doing on this new thing called online trading. Oh, well, I'm sorry, eToro, I've lost you, but fuck them. Let's move on.
They haven't, because I've opened an account with eToro now, and I'm trading there in eToro US. Anybody who's a US citizen can come and copy me on their platform as well.
Oh, okay, all right. So I've been reading a lot about quantum mechanics and computing, as much as like a 12-year-old boy understands the periodic table and stuff like that. But I am actually...
That's pretty advanced.
No, but I've always loved the periodic table. I should have it. I've got a load of books behind me in my study. But I do have a classic periodic table framed downstairs in the main room, because I think it's a work of genius and wonderful design. But my problem with quantum was there used to be a TV show, you might be too young, but do you remember a show called Quantum Leap?
I remember the name very well. I don't think that I ever saw it.
No, well,
being a thing.
I always thought that quantum meant something huge. Quantum leap. It's taken me about 2 years to get it into my head what a quant is and what quantum and quantar are. You know what I mean?
I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I've got, I'm getting my head around it, and Buckminster Fullerene and Earth spaceships and all this stuff. It's you got to do something in these tough times. Learning a bit of Arabic. I tried Hebrew before, but I thought I could only speak that in one country. So I started to learn Arabic years ago. So I had Marhaba, Shukran Sadiqa. I know a lot of that means good luck, I believe, right?
I'm not familiar with that phrase. Maybe the way you're saying it.
Marhaba. Sabah al-khair, sabah al-nur.
Sabah al-khair, good morning and good evening.
Yes. And a lot of very bad words that would probably best.
My cleaner is from Ramallah, so he helps me learn Arabic as much as possible.
Oh, really? I was in Ramallah about 5 years ago. Yeah. Big story there about 3G, 1G, 2G. Anyway, we diversed. So back to the quantum. Why did you call it quantum economics? Because of the very small size of quanta and small movements, or what was the reason behind it?
Well, I felt like money is at the moment going through a quantum leap. As well, you can think of money in the sense of maybe Schrodinger's cat, that it blinks in and out of existence. It doesn't really exist until you put your mind on it. So this is kind of the way that I see the markets as well. It's just kind of this like a big computer game, right? And when you win, that's when you make money. So I don't know. I also thought it just sounded cool, and
it does sound cool.
And the first letters are QE, which quantum economics, QE, which is close to quantitative easing. So my daily newsletter is called the QE newsletter. And of course, it focuses not on quantum economics, but on quantitative easing.
Yeah, well, we called this podcast Blockspeak, which is BS.
BS.
We tried to keep away from the BS
This is the BS conference. Thank you very much for attending.
I read your newsletter. I don't read many.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Should we get this out of the way? How can people sign up?
Easy is quantumeconomics.io, and you'll see there's a box there that says sign up for the newsletter. It's being read by people within all of the major finance magazines, of course, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Reuters, CNBC on a daily basis, and it's growing pretty quickly. So,
what's the readership?
It's 2,050 at the moment.
Okay, and that's a fair number if it's the right people reading it, right?
Yeah, I mean it's we have a 40% open rate, solid 40%.
Really?
Episode, yeah.
Well, I can tell you that you're our sixth guest, and of the three out of those six, one of them was John McAfee. I don't know if he reads anything, but
never mind. We don't have anything nice to say.
Okay, we'll move on from that one. But they've cited your newsletter in our initial conversations. So
thank you.
These are heavyweights that are doing that type of thing. It's very well written, mate. How long does it take to write?
Well, okay, so I met a guy a long time ago on the street who does these kind of paintings, right? And it's kind of like a spin painting, and he puts the ink, and it takes him about 20 seconds because he needs to do it very quickly so that the paint doesn't dry before he's finished. So somebody came up to him, a potential customer, and asked him, "So how long does it take to make a painting?" And he said 30 years. I'm like, dude, I just saw you do it in 20 seconds. Yeah, but if I tell the guy 20 seconds, he's not going to listen to me. And it did take me 30 years because it took me 30 years to develop the technique.
Absolutely.
So that I could do it in 20 seconds. So the answer to your question is it takes me about an hour and a half of writing time every day, maybe 2 hours at the most. But I'm plugged into the markets 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. So it takes all of my time to be connected to the market so that I can write it out in that amount of time.
Yeah, what time? It's funny you should say that story because I've got a similar one about Picasso when he was the most famous man in the world. He used to go to a restaurant in the mountains over Nice. I've been there with when my son was about a year old with my wife and her friend, called the Colombe d'Or, the Golden Eagle, and this is where Picasso used to paint. And an American saw him painting there and said, "Oh my God, he's probably the most famous guy in the world at the moment. I could get a bargain." So he sits watching him do the sketch for 15 minutes, comes up to him, says to him, "Amazing, this is really good. Can I buy it off you?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Oh, how great, that's wonderful. How much would it cost?" He says, "Well, it cost you $50,000. So the guy in America goes, "You're absolutely off your trolley." He said, "It's taken me 15 mints to draw it, but it's taken me 50 years to learn how to do it."
Yeah.
And that's why I always
charge
my consultancy rates until recently. That was a story that I used to say all the time. Quality is better than quantity and all that stuff. So you're stuck into the markets. When you say markets, you're plugged into Asia when it wakes up, or the US when it wakes up, or Israel, or the UK, or Germany. How do you kind of pick between them?
Well, it's the sun picks. It's good wherever the sun is shining. That's the market. That's open at the moment. I tend to sleep in 2 hour bursts.
Really?
Maybe 3-4 times a day. I want to catch the peak times, so that would be New York opening bell, London European Open, and the Asian Open. So it's just want to make sure that you're there at the peak.
Wow, that's amazing. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that. I can sleep in small tranches.
You have kids, man?
Well, I've got a 17-year-old, so it's slightly different. Well, the first 16, yeah. I mean, I was always a bit of a night owl, if you know what I mean. That changed overnight, but wow, that's
you don't get very much sleep when you have children, and especially now that they're furloughed from school.
Oh God,
It's life, man.
I can't think of anything worse. Jeez.
I'm just glad we have a backyard, because then I can send them outside for 2 hours a day and they can get their
Yeah.
exercise and vitamin D.
Well, I took my son into India in the last financial crisis when he was 5 with my wife, and we realised pretty quickly all you need is water. Just stick them in water. You know, there's a swimming pool nearby. They'll be fine. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll watch what they're doing, obviously. You know what I mean? So where is your focus at the moment? Are you kind of getting more excited about? I mean, who's following who at the moment? Is it the Dow Jones opens and Asia follows later, or Europe follows just before that? How does it kind of work?
I think that everybody's kind of focused on the dollar at the moment. The dollar has been a pivotal asset within this crisis. Basically, when everybody's trying to liquidate, and then that would be in Asia, probably the Japanese yen. But the amazing thing is there hasn't been very much volatility in the currency markets comparatively to other markets since this crisis began. The reason being that everybody's kind of got their interest rates at zero or around zero. So volatility in currency markets is usually generated by the difference in interest rates. So if the United States is offering 3% and Australia is offering 6% and Japan's at 1%, so people are going to sell Japan and they're going to buy Australia to get the higher interest rate. These days, there's no difference almost between the interest rates. Everybody's at zero. What I think is most fascinating right now is the effects of the central banks, because everybody's at zero, and they have been since before the crisis. It was very difficult for them to respond, and the only real way that they could respond is by pouring massive amounts of money into the financial markets, and that's actually been very effective in keeping the markets from going down further until now. Of course, just on Monday, we started earnings season across the world, and only now we're going to start seeing the real effects the real hit that companies have taken in January through March. And only really, the second half of March was maybe end of March, when the real lockdown started in the United States. So it could be another three months from now until we really understand the impact of all of this. So there's a lot of volatility going on. Everybody's got a guess. And we all watch the numbers of the virus. If numbers going up is not good, numbers going down is a reason to celebrate. So to answer your question, who's running the show at the moment? Coronavirus is fully in charge, with the Fed on the side waving their flag.
Well, I know that in times of crises, everyone flocks to the dollar as a safe haven, right? I got a good history lesson from a guest last week, saying that these reserve currencies usually last 100 years. Before the dollar, it was the sterling. Before sterling, it was the franc. Before the franc, it was the Dutch guilder. Before the Dutch guilder, it was the Portuguese escudo. It's just very... Almost
exactly 100 years every time.
Yeah, it's strange. So my question would be, bearing in mind that 2 years ago I was fascinated by how my Ethereum was going up and just checking every day how much money I had. It wasn't a very good human aspect of my soul, because I was like a miser, oh, look how much money I've got today. I've made another $1,200, ha ha, like Midas or someone awful. But now it's obviously, I'm checking the Bing statistics and realizing that this is going to be a huge problem for the US, and just presume that people would take their money out of dollars because it was going to be such a huge problem, and the dollar would go down. But then I see the pound plummet to its lowest level. I think it was 115, since recovered to about 126. You say it will go down?
It will. And that was actually even So on January 1st, I wrote my decade forward predictions. I had 4 predictions that I put out. One of the top ones was that there will be some event that will cause the US dollar to lose its prominence and its global reserve status, or that it would at least start to ebb in these 10 years. There has been a major push from China and Russia, of course, and European Union for that matter, who are fed up with the dollar standard. What we've seen so far, everything in the market has been the initial impact of COVID-19. It's basically, think about it as a car that's going 90 miles per hour. I think that's about 120K. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it stops short, right? So that's the global economy at the moment. And the initial impact of that is that all assets start moving down. And that's everything. That's, stocks and bonds and real estate and currencies and everything that you can think of. The value of those assets starts moving down very quickly. When the economy is in expansion, it keeps moving, opening. And the Fed is, the central banks have been helping it expand for the last 13 years. And all of a sudden we see a quick contraction like that, right? Yeah. The assumption is that, it goes on to a contracting cycle now. But during that initial impact, the value of everything across the board goes down. So when we say the dollar is up, it's up in relation to what? Yeah. Right? It's up in relation to other currencies for sure. And it's up in relation to stock markets, and it's up in relation to commodities. Yeah. Because everybody sees what's happening around them and they see the value leaving, and everybody who has assets that they can sell will sell them off. And the default when you sell an asset is to hold the currency. So that's why the currency is getting strong within the initial impact. However, we can already see signs that that initial impact is already starting to wane, and that we're entering the next phase of the market. The next phase of the market right now, gold is the strong one. Yeah. Since the crisis began, gold is the only thing from that day till this that has gone up in value. And it hasn't. In the initial impact, it went down. But now we can see that it's rising and gaining in strength, largely because of the uncertainty, but also because of the fear of inflation.
Would you say that Bitcoin is part of the second wave, or maybe that's further on, or crypto?
I think that crypto is interesting, and it's going to be very difficult to predict, as it always is, because of the level of volatility and because of the fact that it's so new. And if we look at it, let's say not from the beginning of the crisis, but from the beginning of the year, yeah. Right? Bitcoin is actually not doing that bad. From year to date, from January 1st until now, it's down something like 15%, yeah. Which for Bitcoin can go up and down 15% in a single day. So
what about against the dollar?
What do you mean?
The Bitcoin's value against the dollar.
Yeah, so that's the only real way that we can measure it at the moment, right? We can only measure gold and crude oil and all the commodities or even stocks. For the most part, we can only measure them in dollars. So Bitcoin's value is measured in dollars at the moment.
Yeah.
But if things really get bad, and people start ditching the dollar, and they're looking for a more stable source of money, then they start valuing things in Bitcoin. Yeah. But I hope that we don't get to that scenario. That would be rather grim indeed.
No, but the thing about Bitcoin, as you said, the initial shock, people do weird things. I took a load of cash out of the bank just in case. Probably.
No, you created a one-man run on the bank.
I did. And I filled up petrol tanks as well because
I'm with you. I did that too. I filled up the car and I pulled some cash. I did.
What are we like? You know, normally there's somewhere to go. You know what I mean? It's like I know all of the kind of Silicon Valley guys had seen the movie where if you've got a motorbike, you can just easily get out and you can get to your bolt hole and all that stuff. And they had a story here about the southwest of England of Cornwall, where a lot of people in London have second homes, and obviously that creates a lot of friction with local people, the fishing industry. I do not have a second home. And there was one story where they just had enough. The local people saying, like, you don't come here for Easter, like in serious terms, pitchfork terms. You know what I mean? And there was one story where 2 doctors were stopped on their way to their second home. They were stopped. They weren't stopped. They got there, then they realised they'd left their bread maker behind in London. So they drove all the way back to get their bread maker, and then they came back with their bread maker. I mean, how selfish and utterly entitled behaviour. I've never heard anything like it. You know what I mean? I think people are cheating a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a man of movement. I can't be still for too long. I'm lucky enough to have a garden, and I live in a national park, so I can walk a mile, and I'm in the beautiful undulations of the Sussex Downs. So I think maybe what we're saying is that there has been the shock.
Yeah.
The markets have rebounded, whether that's temporarily or not. I remember as a kid saying that you look at the stock market, they always know 18 months ahead of time what's actually going on. So I've always referred to that metric. Would you agree that that's a good one?
So I think at the moment, most stock analysts are doing their best to be optimistic and to see this as a buying opportunity. And those I don't think they're looking at 18 months. I think they're looking at 10 years from now and saying, if, in 10 years from now, the economy is going to totally recover. And if you have that kind of long time horizon, I think that it actually makes a bit of sense, because even if they do go down from here, in 10 years from now, it is very likely that they'll make some sort of recovery. But on the other hand, that recovery is being driven by 2 things. Largely, as we mentioned, the Fed is pouring money into the economy, and for the first time, we're seeing governments also pouring money in. So not just the central banks, but the governments and the central banks are working together, which is something we haven't really seen in the last 10 years.
And the airlines.
Right, they're propping up everything. And we're seeing also a rush of day traders moving into the market, and we're seeing a rush of people who are retail investors who are seeing this also as an opportunity, if they've been sitting out of the markets for a long time, to get in. But we haven't seen yet are companies completely going bankrupt over this. I mean, the initial ones, I think WeWork, is one of the first ones. I don't think that they're going to survive this. But a lot of companies have been living, month to month for the last 10 years.
Yeah. To be fair, a lot of individuals have been living month to month for the last 10 years. You know what I mean?
I think everybody has, except for maybe 10% of the world's population or less. I think everybody kind of does. So we haven't really seen the real effect show up in the numbers of mass defaults on loans from both companies, student loans, and mortgages, which is quite inevitable at this time. And we've seen a little bit of it in the first week of earnings. And the banks who are preparing it, they're basically padding their accounts, they're padding their vaults with cash at the moment and building up reserves, waiting for those bad loans to come in. But we don't know. We have no idea. I mean, they're hoarding a lot more cash than most analysts would have thought they needed. But even then, we still don't know how many people have lost their jobs. We will not know that. We will not know that until 2-3 months from now, until we get the final numbers. for those type of things. So we could go further down, yes, but I think that one of the most fascinating things about the response to this virus is the introduction of helicopter money. The fact that the government is giving out free cash to citizens, and I believe that that is a game changer, because if it's a one-time, if they say, okay, one time, $1,200 for everybody, we're done. It's not that big of a deal, right? The economy they can print that money out. They can, and the economy can recover. The market will kind of envelop it. But
so you're talking about universal basic income, right? UBI.
Exactly. That was the next phrase to come out of my mouth. UBI. If it starts to happen and they start to say, okay, $1,200 isn't enough, we need to do it on a monthly basis, which now seems on the table, then obviously that could add tremendous inflationary pressure. Now,
Sorry, because I'd really like your advice on this, so I don't want to forget the question. Do you think that companies being furloughed is a form of UBI? Or employees being furloughed, sorry?
It depends on where the money is coming from. If you mean furloughed as unpaid vacation or paid vacation?
In the UK, you're furloughed and you get 80% of your money up to a £2,500 threshold.
And who's paying for that? The government or the companies?
The government.
Yeah, so that would be a form of UBI for sure, because you have people who are not working and they're getting, and the government is literally creating money in order to give it to them. Yeah. And that rapidly increases the supply of money. And as we know, supply and demand, if you increase the supply of something, the demand for it eventually starts falling. So my best guess, and obviously, and I have to preface this, because over the last 10 years, the central banks have been pouring money into the economy like water, and we haven't seen any inflation.
No.
So it's been hypothesized by economists around the globe, and nobody really has the answer to say, why has there not been inflation until now? Because it's really a head scratcher. We're pouring money into the economy. Why is it?
Yeah. And I would love to know the answer.
There are a lot of different answers, and I think that it's quite complex, and there are a lot of different factors that are contributing to it. But a lot of it is that it's only been the central banks who have been pouring the money in, and a lot of that money goes directly to companies. So we have been seeing inflation. We've been seeing inflation in asset prices. We've been seeing inflation in the stock market.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen inflation on the street, in the price of goods and services. If we now see the governments coming in addition to the central banks pouring in trillions, now that the governments are pouring in trillions and they're aiming it at the citizens, then it's hard to imagine that it won't cause some form of inflation. But the problem with this is that you'll never know that it's been too much until it's too late.
Yes.
There isn't a point when you can say, okay, we should stop at here, right? Because you can only ever tell in hindsight what the effects have been. And we've seen this in a small scale, of course, in Venezuela and Zimbabwe, Turkey and Iran, who've been a bit more heavy-handed on their money printers, and they've seen hyperinflation, and we hope that doesn't happen to some of the major currencies. But if it does, I can tell you quite pointedly, the most likely effect: gold goes up, Bitcoin goes up, and the stock markets go through the roof.
Yeah, I think that, and I think as a child of the 70s, when we had huge inflation here, and even at the end of the 80s, where mortgage rates were 18%, the idea of inflation was always secondary to unemployment to me, because I'm a humanist and I want people to work and be happy. But inflation, that's a devil. That really is a devil. Matt, we could speak for ages, and I really thank you for your time in coming on. We're going to have to wrap up. We'd love to have you on the show at the end of the year to see what's happened. I would love that.
Sounds like fun.
If you're free to see, But I have a couple of last questions. You said at the start of the year you had 4 predictions. One would be that there would be the gradual fall of the dollar. What were the other 3?
Oh, I don't remember. I'll have to look it up and I'll let you know.
All right.
I have it here in one of my newsletters and go back and figure it out.
So you can sign up for the newsletter at quantumeconomics.io, right?
Correct.
Simple way. I personally endorse it completely. I read it not every day, but probably 4 times out of 5 days. The 80% rule. I think that's it. I think that's what we're going to have to get to use. That's what we're going to have to get used to here. If they're furloughing staff here, UBI at 80%, I think that implies a 20% contraction in our GDP this year. But that's just a layman speaking. But since we met, I've become a venture partner at 7bc.vc. So I'm getting information from different areas, and it's not good. It really isn't good, the news that I'm seeing.
Is it not, though? I mean, the startups, I mean, I'm advising several startups at the moment, and some of them, actually most of them, have even mentioned that they're coming out on top from all of this, especially because, first of all, they don't have to pay rent anymore. I think that's one of the biggest things, that they can actually hold on to that money and use it in a better place.
Yeah, well, you've got 3 months free money. I mean, I took a mortgage break for 3 months, and I didn't. I mean, I'm not rich, but I didn't. I didn't really need to do that. But it was the same time when I got the cash and got the out of the bank and filled the car with petrol. You know what I mean? Anything could happen. You have to just because something doesn't happen doesn't mean that your decisions were wrong. If you know what I mean.
Right.
So give us a couple of predictions from now until the end of the year. You know what I mean?
I really try not to predict the markets. That was actually a one-time thing that at the start of the decade I felt, and I wrote it even at the time, is I don't do this, but with a heavy disclaimer, these are the things that I think are most likely to happen.
Yeah.
I think that right now and especially now, it's very difficult to say anything on a long-term basis because we don't know. There are so many things that we don't know right now. We don't know how long the rolling lockdowns are going to last. We don't know almost diddly squat about this virus. There are about 70 different vaccines in testing right now. We don't know how long until they're ready for humans, and certainly not until they're ready for mass production and mass distribution. We don't know how far we are to having some sort of a treatment and cure. We don't know how fast it's going to continue to spread. And we definitely don't know what are some of the effects on a lot of the experiments that the governments are deploying as far as the helicopter money and monetary policy. So at the moment, I'm trading short term on everything.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, you look at ways of doing it. You've got 2 countries, 2 Scandinavian countries, Denmark and Sweden, next to each other, doing things completely and utterly differently. Where you can in Sweden you can go out and have a party with 50 people. In Denmark they've done it in a very different way. I think it's almost like they cancelled the Olympics, right? This is almost the most dark Olympics of 2021. Is that look, Turkey doing well, they're in 7th place, coming up there. Oh, interesting. China's gone down. Oh, US on top as always. In UK going through strongly. But watch out for India. India will be there at the top at the end. It's a kind of like macabre Olympics.
That's morbid. I did not think you were going to go there.
Sorry, but I am doing it in the morning. I'm checking who's.
And the first thing we do in the morning, all right, is check the numbers. Oh my gosh, check the medal count.
Checking the bloody body count instead of the.
Seriously.
Anyway, I think we probably better stop there before people start trying to fire arrows. And listen, it was lovely to meet. I don't know when we'll see each other again. Hopefully, it'll be in the next 12 months. But
November, man. November, I'll see you in Malta.
I think the ones that knew about this were the people that produced the next James Bond movie. They were the fastest of all to shut it down. They shut it down before the end of March and said, "No, not going to show the film until November." I think they are the real visionaries here.
They know.
The film companies are the ones that know the most, and they're the ones I put my money on coming back with a boom. Anyway,
Disney took the biggest hits, man.
Oh, absolutely. But anyway, we could go on forever. Love to Tel Aviv. Love to your family. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Look after
you too, man.
And I'll see you soon, Mati. Thank you very much. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was Mati Greenspan speaking from what looked like a quite well-photographed bunker in Tel Aviv. It's Monty Mumford from Blockspeak. As Mati said, you can sign up for his newsletter at quantumeconomics.io. I'm Monty Mumford on Twitter. You can find Mati anywhere. This is Blockspeak on all major channels, broadcasting from the heart of the Sussex countryside. Thank you very much for your time. Be safe, but don't be scared. Good night. Well, good afternoon. Good morning. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.